We're going to simplify ratios this time when we have to convert units. So the only way we can simplify ratios is when both parts are in the same units. If we look at all of these, both parts of the ratio are not in the same units. So the first step is making sure the units are the same. Now if you don't know your unit conversions, I suggest that you work on that part of this and learn the unit conversions. But we know that there's 100 pennies in a pound, so £5 can be written as 500, so it becomes 500 to 250. Now we can drop the units in the question or in the ratio because both parts are the same. Now we just need to identify the common factor between both parts of the ratio, and I'm just going to look at it and say what 50 is. Okay, again you could go through and do 2 or 5, whatever you identify, as long as you keep breaking it down. And I end up with 10 to 5. So if I divide both parts by 50, I end up with 10 to 5. But I also know that ratio can be simplified further. So the third step, so obviously identify the common factor and simplify. That's the second step. Now the third step, we need to start being able to fully simplify. So we're going to have to repeat step number 2 until we fully simplified the ratio. Repeat step number 2 to a ratio is fully simplified. We're going to divide by 5, so we end up with 2 to 1. Okay. Now the second one, again, we know that there are 60 minutes in an hour, so in 2 hours there's going to be 120 minutes, so it becomes 120 to 90. We can drop the units now that once they're in the same units, we don't need to write the units in the ratio. Okay, so that's why I've dropped the units. Second step is then to identify a common factor and simplify. So the common factor is 10. We end up with 12 to 9, which is still not fully simplified, so I'm going to simplify further again, which is repeating step number 2, and that's going to leave me with 4 to 3, because 3 was a common factor of 12 and 9, and we reduce 12 and 9 by 3, we get 4 to 3. For the third one, 4.5 litres to 250 millilitres, there's 1,000 litres in a there's 1,000 millilitres in a litre, so we get 4,500 to 250. We don't need to include the units now in the ratio, and then I'm just going to start identifying the common factor, and then I'm going to simplify. You might be able to identify a different common factor, and that's okay. You should end up with the same simplified ratio at the end. So I started by dividing by 10, and then I'm going to repeat the process, which is step number 2 to get it. So the ratio is fully simplified. I'm going to divide by 5, so I end up with 90 to 5. I also know that can be simplified further, so I'm going to divide by 5 again, and I'm going to end up with 18 to 1. And for the last one, I know that there's 100 centimeters in a meter, so I can write the ratio as 320 to 500. Again, dropping the units. Now the units are the same on both sides of the ratio. Then I start identifying the common factor, so then I can simplify. So I've got dividing by 10. Again, if you can identify a different factor, that's okay. So you get 32 to 50, and then we're going to simplify that further again. I'm just going to half them, so I get 16 to 24.